All right, welcome back to another episode of Before the Tones Drop podcast. We have another exciting guest today. Former Sheriff of Woodbury County, Dave Drew, joins us. Dave, thank you.
Oh,
Taking
thank you.
time to come talk with us today.
Appreciate it.
So, have you listened to any of our other episodes before? Kind of know how this works?
I caught a little bit of maybe one of the first episodes way back. I don't know how long this has been going on, but it's been a little while, hasn't it?
Okay, yeah. Last month we had Chief Everett. Had a fun chat there. We've had some great guests and heard a lot of interesting stories. I didn't do much biography research on you as a guest. I don't know a whole lot about you. I knew you're the former sheriff of Woodbury County, so that's why I'm excited. I wanted to keep it pretty original and raw today. So once again, thank you for coming on. And usually what we do is we kind of go to the beginning, figure out where our guests went to high school, grew up, and then what brought them into their career, and whether it's law enforcement, military, police, Sioux City, maybe somewhere else. So my first question for you today is, did you grow up in Woodbury County?
Yeah, I grew.
What was that like?
Well, I grew up in Sioux City. I grew up in the Leeds area.
Okay.
And funny thing is, back in that day, your old fire station was on Floyd Boulevard in the downtown area.
Okay, yeah.
Next to the Dairy Queen, I can tell you where I kind of hung out. And, so that was there, and the firefighters, there was like, I think 2 maybe at that place. And we'd always ride our bike around, and they'd be sitting out, and we'd try to talk them into letting us go down the
down the pole.
Down the pole, yeah. And they were really good. I mean, so growing up in Leeds was a great time. So we had a lot of firefighters in Leeds. Everett Mearis was, if you remember him.
Okay.
And I'm sure there was some others, and a lot of police officers. And so for us kids growing up in Leeds, that kind of shaped us up a little bit. We better behave. It was one.
Was Leeds more, because you kind of said, said the station was kind of like by the downtown area. Was Leeds more kind of, I mean, did it almost feel like its own little kind of town at that point, at that time?
It really did. What happened, the difference was they built all the new high schools in about 72 or 73. So each, like Riverside lost their little community spirit, Leeds lost their community part, but they've done a great job of trying to continue on that tradition. Leeds is kind of like Morningside area, you have pride in your little community.
I heard that you still go to the old neighborhood to go for walks during the day.
I do. I walk by your police. I go. I park at the park, and my dog and I, we go up on the river dike, but you can see the fire station there, the new one. And,
cool.
So it's, and then I walk through the neighborhood and reminisce, My wife has to listen to that.
Where do you live at right now?
I live in Lawton.
Okay.
I've been out there 30 years.
That's
I lived
right.
in Leeds 33, so doing the math, I'm old. But, and Leeds, I still come back when I'm walking and try to find this is where I want my wife's. No, we're not moving to Leeds. She's not interested anymore. But I guess I'm the only guy interested in the old neighborhood.
Gotcha. So then probably went to school in North?
Well, I went to North for a year and a half and Heelan the last year and a half.
Okay.
So, I get invited to both school reunions. How about that?
There you go. Double the party.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you want to go to those.
What year did you graduate from Heelan then?
1978.
Nice. They pretty good at football in the
We
70s?
were good in football, and I'm really happy to see him back in the Dome.
Yeah.
It was a few years of not very good.
I kind of heard they fell off a little bit.
They did, and
I didn't know they were on the rise. Good.
They were a powerhouse in the 70s, and probably some of the 80s too. Yeah.
Gotcha. Why was that? Now we're kind of off topic here.
I don't know. Winning
Breeds
gets winning. Yeah. And I don't know. I always felt like when we walked onto the field, we had a 7-point advantage. Just we didn't lose a lot.
Yeah.
We lost when I played in the semifinals twice. Didn't make it to the Dome.
Wow.
One short. But my sophomore year, they won the state championship. So, pretty interesting. Good coaches. I don't know what makes that happen.
Good culture.
Yeah, I think so. East was always tough. East and Heelan was always a heck of a rivalry. Probably 10,000 people showed up at Roberts Stadium to watch high school football, and it was, those were some good battles, really good battles. They had some good coaches at East as well. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He's a legendary coach.
Ed would know because he Walt Fiegel.
Yeah, Walt Fiegel.
Yep.
Absolutely legendary. My favorite Walt Fiegel line was he used to tell the kickoff team, run down there like small town gossip. I thought,
That's a good
unless you live in a small town, you'll never understand it. Yeah, that was, I mean, that guy was, I'd play for him and I would have ran through the wall for him. He was that kind of guy.
That's fantastic. Sure. Yeah. I've heard a lot about, for a guy that's been gone for a while, never heard a lot of good things. So
growing up most of my life in Spencer, we always knew we were going to be hurting the next day after playing Heelan a little more than other opponents. But yeah,
it was a good time.
Long, good history there.
So, you know, in high school, did you kind of have a general idea what you wanted to do afterwards?
You know, I always wanted to get in law enforcement. I got to be honest with you. I don't know if it was all those cop TV shows back in the day, you know, Adam 12 and all that stuff. But I think the other thing was growing up in Leeds, like I said, there was a lot of police officers that lived there. And Leo Miller, the sheriff, was my neighbor. Oh, cool. And he was a school liaison officer at North. He had a K-9, lived next to me. And I was like, man, that's the coolest thing in the world. And Ed Conley was assistant chief, and Ron Pettit was the captain. So, and then there was other officers that lived there, but those are some of the people that I remember.
So just seeing them out and about, that's what kind of sparked it.
Yeah. I think it was kind of like this. This is a poor analogy, I think, but my son, when he was senior in high school, a gentleman loaned us a Hummer that he could take to prom, which was kind of cool. And my daughter, I think at that time, was 5, and we got out of the car, and she said, Dad, I really want one of these. And I said, what would make you? Everybody looks at us, you know. So I think, you know, everybody sees the cop. Everybody sees your fire trucks. And I don't know what it was, but I just thought that was a cool image.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice. So did you do any time in the military?
I did not. No, my family, my wife's side, all military. My son's full-time at the base. But no, I got in police work at 21. As soon as I was done out at WIT, I was off and into the police world.
So what was your first law enforcement job?
I worked in the little town of Marcus, which was funny.
Okay.
I think 1,200 people maybe. And I had 2 assignments: lock the post office at 8 o'clock and make sure the water tower shut off at 10.
That's a small town.
Yeah. And I thought, why in the world do you want to shut the water tower off at 10? So I'm doing my typical reading on Main Street because I'm going to the police academy. And all of a sudden it's the winter, and all of a sudden you just hear this accident, some ice. And I look, the water tower's coming over, and it made the street all icy.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so I kind of did one of these, ma'am, you have to know your conditions. I should have shut the water tower off. I wasn't going to let her in on that one.
That's a small town thing. You have to shut the water tower.
Shut the water tower off and lock the post office. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was it.
So that was really like a Barney Fife kind
it
of
really
gig.
was. It truly was. I did my 6 months, finished the academy. Sergeant Bluff was hiring. It was obviously a lot better step, close enough to Sioux City. I did 18 months there and 37 years at the sheriff's office.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when you went to WIT, was it a police science program then?
Yes.
Or just even back
you know, the history.
Which is funny because now, I mean, we'll get into it later and stuff, but now teaching that.
Yeah, exactly. I never thought
That's like
I'd walked out that
talk
door.
about like full circle, right?
Yeah, but there are a lot of law enforcement officers, chiefs, sheriffs, colonel of the state patrol on 2 different occasions, graduated from WIT Police Science. So it has a really good reputation. A lot of Sioux City officers. Lamar's chief is a WIT grad. The sheriff in Plymouth is a WIT grad. So it just it's kind of neat.
Yeah. So anyone that was listening that's looking to get into law enforcement, West Iowa Tech would be a great place to look into, get where you need to go.
Absolutely. And I tell, I'm there now teaching, and I tell these kids, I said, you're 18, you get done at 20, chances of getting hired are slim, continue on and get your education. But that might change too. Law enforcement is really hurting to hire people, so they're starting to hire younger.
My next question is, how competitive was it at the time compared to now?
Oh, so we used to have a 1 or 2 year list, and out of that list, you'd be lucky if one person left. They just didn't leave those jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
40 years wasn't uncommon. 30 to 35, not uncommon. Today, I get it. It's a different culture. And so people are, they're getting out. I think a lot of that has to do with maybe the spouse. It's thinking, you could probably make as much and not be on shift work and all that. And so that plays a heavy. And I think we have people doing background investigation. I say, but I'm retired, but they have them doing background investigation. And I think one of the things is they really probably now are sitting down with the family and letting them know, all that goes on. It's not Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. There's weekends, holidays. And so I think they're educating them and trying to give them maybe the darkest picture before you sign on the line to get on.
Well, and that is when you talk about the schedule like that and stuff, because that is a marketing thing. And even on the fire side, that we try to market that, for having freedoms and stuff, because it could be, both a curse and a blessing.
Right.
Depending, it's like our schedule at 24/48. People don't realize, well, when you say 24/48, well, I got to work 24 hours. But when you say, but you only work 10 days a month.
Right.
You have a lot of time if you value your time, or you want to do stuff on the off days, or you have hobbies, or you want to take trips, or this and trade, so we can market it as that side. You guys, even at shift work, is it hard to sell something to some 20-year-old as something that, all you're gonna do is work nights now for the next I don't know how many years until you get to seniority, and or for the families and stuff, it is a little bit of a hard thing. But on the flip side, you still try to market it as like, but there's vacation time, there's the ability to advance and all this stuff. So I guess you could see it both ways. Just because of like you said, the culture, the people that we're recruiting to now, just the mindset, the generational thing. Whereas when you got in, that was like when you get a solid middle class job with a guaranteed paycheck and benefits, it's worth its weight in gold at that time. And that's why you said that the guys didn't leave 30, 40 years because you had that. It was a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, and a good paycheck.
Yes.
And you weren't working a packing house. You didn't have to do some, a manual labor job. There's something that you're still serving your community, getting back to, growing up and that. So
shutting the water tower off.
Yeah, shut the water tower, But, so I could see, that it's, you're marketing to a different generation, different mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know people were starting families earlier then too, I think.
Yeah.
And so like the selling of the benefits is hard even on our part now because kids don't want to think about that and don't have to.
No.
I'm not going to the doctor for another 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
But until something happens.
Your first year in the sheriff's department, what year was that?
1984.
84, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Was Sioux City PD on your radar at all, or did it just sheriff's just kind of got to you first?
No, I took the test. I did very well, but I had a slight. They said I was colorblind. So I went to the doctor, and he said, "You're not colorblind. You have a little deficiency. It takes a little more red or a little more green." And so Doc Corden was the county coroner at the time, and his two things that he ever cared about was, do you smoke? No. Can you see your belt buckle? Yeah, because he wanted you to be fit. So I still remember this. He's got this circle, and you might see 7 because you have no color deficiency. I'll see 4. And then I go, that thing, and he goes, 7, right? Don't you see 7? Yeah, I see 7. I'm thinking, I'm going to see whatever you see. And
that's right.
So I scooted on.
You're like a World War II pilot. It's like, we need bodies.
I think that was it. And in that time, there was a lot of the older guys that were former military that were retiring out. And I was already academy certified. Me and another deputy, we got hired the same day and retired real close to each other. And Sergeant Jim Barley, good guy, we sworn in together and retired just a few months apart. Jim was a guy, he lives out in Leeds and just a hard worker, did the same thing. I would almost call him the guy that brought his lunch pail to work every day. He loved patrol and he loved being a K-9 officer, and that's all he ever did. And people were like, but that he loved it. He didn't. The same way he started 37 years earlier was the same way he finished. Now that's pretty good.
That's pretty dang
really
good.
is, yeah. And so I always held Jim in high regard. Good guy.
Gotcha. Was there a reason the colorblind was considered a deficiency? I think Any big ones, I guess, that would stand out?
No, I don't. Other than apparently I got to be able to see the red light, and the green light driving. But I always knew that. I knew I had a problem when I was a kid. We were on vacation out east. That's where my dad grew up, and we're sitting there at a stoplight. And I said to my mom, "Why is it white and you guys call it green?" So yeah, I didn't have enough of that. So maybe I got by.
Ran another great light this week. Yeah. That's good. So, you start off your career in law enforcement, and, what was law enforcement like in the 80s?
Well, yeah. I as I teach today in class, I talk about how today's law enforcement officers are much more tolerant than we were back in the day when I started. Okay, so I started in 81, get on sheriff's office in 84. So let's just say from 84 on, some of those guys had 20 years on, so 64. So there was no Miranda warning. There was no, we're going to debate each other here. Yeah. It was my word or that's it. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I don't remember him teaching that at the academy, but I'm going along with it, Yeah. I personally believe a little fear is good, not abuse, but a little bit. See, if you look at today's society, there's no fear there in your face, and it's tough. It's tough, and the law enforcement officer today knows everything about de-escalation. We didn't know anything about de-escalation. You talk back, boom, handcuffs. We used to have abusive epithets. You couldn't swear at us. Now you can do everything and finger us, and we just have to sit there and take it. And I remember towards the end the George Floyd incident, which was a bad incident.
You were still working at the time.
I was still working. It was my last 6 months. And, there was a lot of things going on that I just thought, man, I called my wife one evening being downtown when some of that was going on, and I said, I know I'm done. Well, why? I said, I can't do that somebody's in my face and, belligerent. I wasn't trained that way. So even though, we went to body cameras, we were the first in the state of Iowa to go to body cameras, and it helped show what we're up against.
Absolutely.
And it became a winning tool for us. And so we use it instead of them always having their camera by us, and it showed what we have to put up with. And the public here in our community has always been pro-police. So we have never been like some of these other major cities. We're fortunate, and that's what I think often that's what makes the job fun to do. And when your community supports you.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you were a young deputy, I assume?
Yeah.
When you were a young deputy, what was some of your favorite things, in terms of calls or stuff to go on? What was?
Well, it was kind of funny. I loved going to anything school related. I worked shortly after I was on. I worked in all the schools. I was school resource officer back then. We called it school liaison. So I worked in. There were 6 schools in the county, and I worked 3, and another deputy worked 3. So anytime I could do that, and then I taught DARE for about 5 years. DARE was a drug and alcohol resistance education program. So a lot of people knew me as the DARE guy or Deputy Drew, and which you made a lot of positive contacts. And like I said, the reason I got into policing, and I think the reason most people get into policing is they want to give back to their community. I know that's cliche and it's said a lot, but really I think that is the reason why. Yeah. So, but call wise, there was some that as time went on, I struggled. I thought, how is this a police call? And I'll give you one. The mom calls 911 and says, Tim doesn't want to go to school today. But is that a police problem? Right. Maybe parents ought to. So that was, it's like, really, this is a police call? So you'd go there and say, hey, Tim, what's going on? I'm going to school. He's kicking the wall. He's doing this. I said, well, you need to go to school. I mean, I have no authority.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
Maybe get him counseling. Maybe you. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm not dragging him to school, and you're tying us up. So there's a lot of that sometimes that happen, and I think the deputies probably are a lot better handling that than I was, because I'd look at him and think, hey,
what's wrong with you? Get your ass up and go to school.
Exactly.
Well, and I don't think, in more, because you see our volume, even our run volume going up and up and up. And I think we get a lot of calls for everybody, not to relate it back to COVID during that time, but it seems like since then, people call 911 for everything. For sniffles, for cough, instead of, take an ibuprofen, go back to bed, be sick, or call your regular doctor and they call an ambulance. Well, I don't think people realize, how busy actually the county is, and Sioux City PD in town and stuff. If you, on a Friday or Saturday night, I'll turn our radio on and just listen to the police channel.
Yeah.
And, when we got, on a busy day, like our highest run volume days are like 50, 55 runs. But when we're running that, PD is running like 250 or 300. It's incredibly busy that, and you guys, and it's a lot of stuff that you're a lot of those things that we don't even know about, on the fire side and stuff, or on the EMS side, that you guys are getting called to and dealing with. And on a Friday, Saturday night anymore, I tell you what, the city gets a little bonkers out there.
Oh, it
and
does.
the county does too. There's, we could talk about it later, but some incidents that have happened out in the county lately. But I guess the general public doesn't realize how busy law enforcement is anymore.
Right.
I mean, really busy.
I stop in some of the last different things and about retirement. You like it? Yeah, I love it. Are they really busy? I said, well, let me tell you this. On Sundays, way back in the day, if you were lucky to get a call, on Sunday, it just never happened. Or if it did and you arrested one person, that was it. But Sundays are as busy as Friday and Saturday. So there's no rhyme or reason. You can't figure it out. But our community culture and everything has changed. And I think a lot has to do with COVID. There's just a lot. I know there's a lot of. I can't say this, but a lot of angry people. Would be their term.
I'll tell you, yesterday the amount of times we had to call PD to help with calls that we were on was like you're talking to Sunday, and I was around a little bit for where you'd sit around on a Sunday and you got a call. It was like, dang it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, please, can we just stop running for a little bit?
Oh yeah. Yesterday was busy.
It was ridiculous.
There was 3-4 taps went out, and they had to call for PD on all 3 of them because of hostile homeowners.
Just people are irate for no reason now. And it's everything.
It's all weather dependent. If it's a nice day out,
I
don't even know if it's that anymore. I think it's just the way people can't handle their emotions anymore for some reason.
It's like I said, and to me, and I don't like using COVID as an earmark in time.
Right.
Something
but
changed.
It is, but it seems like since then, just whatever happened. But it's I don't know.
Or maybe we started
different.
to pay attention.
And maybe that's it. But it's just if you used an earmark at time, or we could just use it since 2020. Things that just I don't know picked up. But
there's just a lot of angry people, and I don't know if a lot of that social media drives some of that. Some of the things you see on some of these social things, TikTok, or they. They show some kid running down on say like I'm on this walking trail. I'm always a little hyper vigilant looking around.
Sure. Yeah.
But they clobber the old guy in the back of the head, see.
Yeah.
And I fit that description, so I don't want to get hit in the back of the head.
And all people are getting told is things are bad all the time.
But, and that shouldn't be like you shouldn't be concerned about that. That shouldn't it shouldn't even be a thought in your head.
Yeah, I know it.
And there was a time when it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So just with that, like we start in the 80s. What were some of the biggest changes that you saw with law enforcement from there until you retired?
Probably respect. I think in the 80s and 90s we were, well thought of, which I still think we are, but I mean to a different extent. Somehow they started questioning us, and this is kind of where I go with that. I think it first happened in schools, because when I was a kid in school and I misbehaved, I begged the principal not to call my mom. My mom was only 5'2", but man, she was an ornery German, and she had the old barber deal and whipped me in the butt with it, and I'd run, but the kids would. they'd fear authority. You know, there's no fear of that. And so poor teachers, if you've been to a school, those teachers put up with way more. Talk about wanting to get out of the job. I don't know how a teacher can survive with some of the things that they have to put up with, that they never dreamed about being an educator, with kids, and the smart mouths and just the combative attitude, or the kick up the feet and don't want to do it. I mean, I had Mr. Dorn was my 7th grade English teacher, and he had a little paper mache, looked like a rabbit, and if you weren't paying attention, he just drilled you with it. You know? So one time I ducked, and I thought I was good, and hit the girl behind me. Seriously, he took me outside. He said, "I've had enough of you," and I was 7th grade. And I said, "Yeah, I've had enough of you." he just tossed me around out the school lot. So he kind of dusted me off and wiped me off, and he said, "You ready to go back in?" Yeah. Well, I needed that, right?
Yeah.
And poor teachers, they can't do nothing. They got to count, or they have to do I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah. So then that has gone down to law enforcement. But one thing that's kind of funny, but not, is in the courts, you know, there's always high respect. You can't. Now they're talking back to judges. Right. And I'm thinking, now it's a little different, because the judge is like, in contempt. I thought, whoa, you know, we can't use that, you know. Yeah. But you know what? There needs to be respect for authority, and that's probably my biggest disappointment. And that parents today are siding with the kid. And so go back to body cameras. When we had them, then we would invite, like a dad would call, say, "Hey, my daughter said she was only going 5 over, and she got a ticket. It says 5 over. And I mean, what kind of people are you, 5 over? Don't we all drive 5 over?" And I'd say, "Well, why don't you come in? We'll watch the video." But I said, "Just do me a favor. On that ticket where it says, 60 and a 55, is there a number above it that's circled?" "Yeah. I said, "What is it?" 72. See, she was going 72, but he was nice and dropped it to 50.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, come on and watch the video." "Nah, okay." Right. So why would you believe? You don't think your daughter or son
And I don't understand
Right.
like, when you're caught and you do something wrong, like, you did it, just do your penance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Why lie about it after that?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter, teach your kids if if an officer tells you to, I mean, just or
like, dude,
any
you're caught.
Yeah. Or
deal
any,
with it.
any person of authority and stuff or whatever. Just, I mean, they're not out to get you.
Right.
It's probably just, I mean, the simplest is even at home, right? With your kids, like, it's always worse if you lie about it.
Right.
Double down on the lie, and I still find out about
absolutely.
it. It's going to be way worse. Just like, just own it and be like, "Yep, nope, it's okay. Yep, yeah."
My household, there wasn't getting a whole lot away with anything. But, So I know if my old man asked me a very specific question or pointed question, I better just say.
He already knew the
knows.
answer. Yeah,
So,
my dad knew everybody in town too and stuff. So it was like everybody in town knew what and everybody in town knew what I drove for a car or any of this. I mean, so there was like I'd get a phone call at home, like be out doing whatever, get a phone call at home like an hour later and be like, "Hey, were you doing?" I'm like, "No." I'm like thinking, how did he ever find, like, both my parents, the things that they could find out, like, I had no idea how you would even find that out, and all of us, being in, whether it's law enforcement or in the first responder community, there's 100 and some odd guys on the fire department, plus all the retired guys. I mean, even for Sioux City, as big as a town it is, somebody knows whose kid or whatever. I mean, it doesn't take, you can, so my kids, I'm always like, hey, especially we live in Sergeant Bluff. I said, it's a small town.
Oh, yeah.
You guys went to school here.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the parents, you can't get away with anything.
Right.
So just flat out, just, own it, because we're going to find out one way or another, right?
It's kind of like thinking about that. You're probably before cell phone, right? And they could call each other on the phone in a matter of minutes. Everybody knows about this.
Yep.
So it travels. And there was just good ways to communicate. And I would say this, for the most part, parents sided with the authorities,
Yeah. What when we talk about changes, and Ben, to kind of come off of Ben's question stuff with as far as policing in the 80s and stuff, but what are some of the greater biggest changes, like technology wise, training wise, the stuff that you see? Because I know you made reference to the George Floyd incident stuff, but you were big into policing right in the middle when Rodney King, when that happened.
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Was there, and what what spurred changes? Because that was a big thing for law enforcement and stuff. And did we see changes? George Floyd, did you guys see, was there changes in training and tactics, body cams, things like that? But what have you seen as far as what's the greatest, some of the biggest things technology wise, training wise, tactic wise that you've seen over the years that have come from, whether it's different incidences or just changing with the times?
Right. Well, I think that one of the things that we have focused on a lot is de-escalation. Mm-hmm. You really need to learn how to communicate, and not, hey, I told you to get over. Now you just start the agitation. So we have to know how to kind of be a salesman, And some people, that's a hard adjustment for if you've been here a while. But you find the newer ones are really making big headways. Large, but you're right, Rodney King. Any of those incidents, I remember to this day. I got a place up north, and sitting there, and this all of a sudden this comes on, this George Floyd incident, and I text Rex, and I said, I think we're going to have issues, some fallout, and he said, I just saw it. And sure enough, it went all over the country, it went all over the country. Yeah. And bad cops ruin it for good cops.
Right.
And but it got to the point, if you remember this case, you may not, but there was a Brooklyn Center police officer. She was a female, and this kid.
Was this is the taser incident?
Yeah,
yes.
She said taser, but she had the gun in her hand.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, she says taser. In her mind, it's all going so fast. Mm-hmm. She thinks she has her taser, and when she shoots him, she does the utterance, oh my God, I shot him. She had no intent to kill him. Mm-hmm. It was error. Listen, it was costly, don't get me wrong, and the city should pay. I get all that, but to imprison her when you knew that she had no intent, there has to be intent to the law. And I think that was one of those, sometimes our justice system wants to make right what the wrong was, and this was a bad incident. I'm not saying what she did was right. Obviously, it was wrong.
Right.
But she didn't intend to, and it was just poor. She got all, how the old saying, you get it in fire. You got to think things have to move slower in your mind.
Right. But if something like that happens, so now do you, does a department go back and kind of look at, okay, have we had anything either A, close, B, do we have to look at the way we train our guys or some of the tactics, because I do, and we have how many guys and stuff we watch. There's a ton of YouTube stuff for fires, stuff on Instagram, TikTok, all these things, and you see bad incidents happen or you see in the news and stuff. So I like to take some of those and bring it back to the station and stuff, and just sit down. Hey, let's look at how we would handle this, or what are we not doing, or we have guys come up with ideas. Hey, this happened in this place. Maybe we look at either this type of equipment or something. I mean, something like that. Does that happen on a level where internally a department kind of looks at all the handle things? Is that, I know where they were talking, that one specifically talking about which side that your weapon is versus your taser and stuff, and how and just the training with that.
They've made the adjustment. We went to outer carry vests for a couple of reasons. Putting all that on your gun belt. People were having bad backs and going out on disability with those, so we went to the outer carry. So now you have the taser up here and your gun over here, and there's just a lot of better things. But we spend a lot of time now in training, lots of time in training. I know when I was sheriff, and I'm sure Sheriff Sheehan is continuing, we would get together monthly and maybe have somebody come in and talk about different things, such as what you're talking about, and try to make those improvements. Because what I always said is, we don't want to end up on YouTube. Okay? There's a group out there that are like First Amendment auditors, and they're really trying to trip you up. Yeah. So just be kind, answer the question. You can move on too, but sometimes we had a little bad video with us, and you just need to learn and make some improvements. And we took that as a training tool to how to deal with that and how to avoid those things. And trust me, we weren't the only agency. But yes, there's people out there to just try to get your goat.
Yeah, I think one of the things you're seeing as a shift is people I don't think trust law enforcement
Right.
like maybe they used to. You can talk about that respect. I think
Right.
there's just a lack of trust.
Yep.
And that's from seeing these cases of maybe abuse of power, abuse of responsibility. So with your time with the sheriffs, what even today with the sheriff's department and even like Sioux City Police, what do you guys do to make sure that we are doing our job professionally to standard? We don't have bad cops. We don't have cops abusing their power and things like that.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that we all have been involved in is community policing. So the community sees us in not just in our uniform and our squad car, because if that's the only time they see you, that's not enough. So try to show up for community events. It's one of the things we did was if you are a deputy and you work afternoons, but your son plays ball, show up, be visible. Let them know that you're the dad that shows up, watch your kid. Hey, I got a radio on. If I'm tripped to a call, I'll go. That came up as one of those incidents when the Board of Supervisors at that time thought they could be the sheriff. And that was one of those times where I probably had a little battle. But they needed to learn that we're elected officials, so I had autonomy. You can't tell me. You can control my budget and how many people I have, but you can't tell me how to run the sheriff's office. And one of our guys, a union guy, he's a good guy, and he's done very well, but he made some comments on social media about a couple former board members. And I get this call about, hey, I want you to meet over at the board office. And I got this piece of paper. Wait, you're going to fire him. Fire him? I say he's a union president. He can say I'm fat and old. I can't do anything about it, okay?
Right.
He's a union president. If he said something he didn't like you or what, you got to get over it, get through it. Oh, they were upset. Well, I said, stop, don't make threats, And but anyway, back to community policing. Sioux City Police Department has done a great job over the years, Sheriff's Office. We need to be an integral part of the community. Sioux City Fire, we all join together at different events. And it's important. The nice part is your image is always going to be good. Everybody loves the firefighter, right?
Yeah, it makes it easy.
But it is, you guys have, and our negativity is sometimes because of arrest. There's not much we can do,
If you're having an interaction with you guys, it's usually not the greatest under the greatest circumstances, usually. But
and often, like going back to policing today, they really have tried to get them to not go to jail. Yeah. But they sometimes earn their right to go, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Give them every opportunity and
they
still choose the hard way.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Moving forward here a little bit. So what was kind of your journey to becoming the sheriff from your time on until eventually when you got elected?
So, as I said, Leo Miller was my neighbor, and he became sheriff, and kind of a guy who was my mentor. Looked up to him, and it was fun to work for him. I was community policing officer there. I did DARE. The Sheriff Amick became the sheriff, little known. Dave and I ran in 1992 to be the Republican representative to be sheriff. Well, Dave beat me. I thought he was going to be there forever. He was there 3 terms, did a great job as sheriff. He ended up beating Leo Miller. And at the end, Dave had appointed me to be his chief deputy. And Dave lost the election in 2004, and Sheriff Parrott took over, and Glenn's a great guy. But the sheriff's office has always kind of an ugly history. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes a little too political.
Sure.
And so Glenn put somebody else in. Glenn and I are friends, and we moved on from any of that pettiness. And in 2008, I ran against Glenn, and it was about, I just ran on trying to be younger and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there was a little anger towards that, and then I ran in 12 and won, and Glenn was retiring. But, Glenn and I, Dave Amick, and Sheriff Sheehan, we get together every quarter to have lunch and reminisce. So we have a great relationship. Leave all that pettiness behind.
I guess I haven't been able to talk to any of them about how that kind of went. Sheriff Wise is like, well, I'm going to run against you, but we're still buddies. And
Right. Well, I guess because people don't think about that the sheriff is an elected official.
Yeah.
Because in all technicality, couldn't I just say I'm going to run for sheriff?
You could,
and with no law enforcement experience or whatever, I could just make the effort and be like, I'm going to run for sheriff and get elected as sheriff.
Absolutely.
So I guess people, you don't think of that because you think of police and you think of applying and going through and working your way up, like on the municipal side and stuff. But it's a little bit different.
That's a long steep tradition too.
It is,
so,
Glenn, when he won in 2004, he just said he was going to run one time. So I thought, well, I'm going to run in 2008. That time I was 48, and I thought this would be perfect, And so I came in. I told him I'm going to run. I said, you said you weren't going to run. He said, well, I changed my mind. I said, well, I already told some people, so let's do it and let's keep it on the up and up. We don't need to get personal, and we didn't. We just talked about topics that I believed in. He ran on what he believed was his record. That might not always make a spouse happy. Family gets involved, and your sides. Oh my God, that's the ugliness of sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. But it's funny how within 2 months you're all back together.
Right.
One of the things that was helpful in 12 when I ran, I won. In 16, nobody ran against me. It was funny. I'd have people say, "Well, that really means you're doing a good job." I said, "No, that really means I don't get paid a lot. Nobody wants it." But so then in 20, in 18. I always said I was I didn't want to run one more time because, of the pay. I wanted it because my heart's in it, but I was sputtering oil. I was I was like, I'm going to be 60. I don't really, and a couple of buddies that went on to become chief in another Altoona suburb of Des Moines. One of the captains left and went with them, and I'm like, and then you tell stories to other guys, a young guy, and say, back in '84 and he's like, God, I wasn't even born for 10 years. And you start thinking, I'm really old. So, I thought it was a good time to come out. And I had spoke to Chad about running, and he had a successful business. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was interested, but I don't think he thought it was too serious. And then I just said, I am done. And it all worked out. Cool. I'm really happy that Chad's the sheriff. I think he's doing a good job. It's a little funny story, not, but kind of. New Year's Eve, I'm celebrating 2020. My wife and I are having a little, with some friends, and we're done. So midnight rings, and it's about 12:20. Phone. I'm like, comm center. The heck, Sheriff. Chief Mueller wants to know if you can get some deputies over to help because they had the homicide out on Morningside. It was on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm not sheriff anymore. You'll have to call Chad. So I had told Chad, the minute and so he thought.
He thought.
He's
like,
so they called him, and he's like,
right.
No, that's it. I called him the next day. How'd that go for you, Chad?
You're messing with them. We're like, no, you're really sheriff now.
Yeah.
It's so good. We're not kidding.
Yeah, that was it was like a house party, ex-girlfriend thing.
Yes, drive-by.
Yeah, that was
horrible.
Ugly. Yeah,
horrible.
Yeah. How many sheriffs has Woodbury County had? Like in the, I guess.
Oh my God. Well, I was the 33rd sheriff. Chad's the 34th. So I think Woodbury County was 1860 something.
Yeah.
33 sheriffs is all.
Yeah.
So you had some that stayed forever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the longest serving sheriff, and I'm sorry, I just can't remember. I could see we had the
poster board down at the courthouse. They
have
one down there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see it. I can't think of his name, but he was at least 4 terms. And
that's a good run.
I think everybody.
Is there a limit on? Or is there term limits, or you can just keep running as long as you can?
Yeah, I think it's the way I say it is. This is a poor analogy, but coming in, it's like Jesus on Palm Sunday. Oh, yes. Yay, love it. In about 8 years, they're like, crucify him. Get rid of that guy.
Do you age out? Do you age out of
Right.
You're still, you still have arresting authority, still doing the job as law enforcement,
Right.
but because you're elected, not
Right.
an
That's
appointed.
because you're elected.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're appointed the chief, you have to retire
Yep.
364 days.
Yep.
And but elected, you
Yeah.
know, they have that.
You can just keep going.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
You know, and I applaud, honestly. I think nothing, high marks for Glenn. I couldn't imagine wanting to do it. You know, I'm 63 and I was glad to be done.
Yeah.
And he loved it. It was a lifelong dream. You know, after 08 election, the media asked me different things about, you know, that was when President Obama was elected. Do you think it was a Democrat wave? I said, you can say all those things, but here's the deal. Glenn Parrott was well liked, well received, and he was reelected. And that's how it is. I'm not going to make excuses.
Yeah.
And so I think that helped me going into 2012. You know, I wasn't a whiner and complainer. Yeah, he won because. No, he won because if you went out in the county, everybody knew Glenn Parrott.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I tell you this, in a personal side, and he's in his 80s, I'd still have him for a backup if there was a fight.
Yeah, I used to.
He's
he goes
a big
to
dude.
Planet Fitness.
He's still he's still throwing around weights.
Oh
and-
yeah, yeah. I mean, and he's got a good heart. Glenn's good people, and Tom is a good guy too.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got to put up.
So,
we are too.
Operationally, can you break down how the sheriff's department works from top down?
Yeah. So you know, sheriff. Then you have a chief deputy. I had 2 majors and lieutenants, and then sergeants.
So the sheriff has to appoint that chief deputy, and that can always be a moving position.
That's a moving position.
Gotcha.
Yep. The others can, like captain or major, can be civil service, but if you're over 100,000, you could have those 3 be appointed.
Okay.
And so my belief was I wanted somebody that had the same philosophy and mentality that I had. And so we all wanted to work together and be on the same page. And, you know, I had a guy that was a union president that I thought he knows about treating personnel. That's one of the things we did. We met either monthly or quarterly with the union because administration doesn't have all the ideas, right?
Sure.
We're bluffing ourselves if, you know, we sit in an office. And so we needed input on what was important for the jail staff, important for the deputies. And, you know, I did one that probably didn't make them happy, but it was one of these deals. And we have it's in-car computers, right? Everybody has them. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Try to forget some of this stuff, but
Like it was just like an MDT.
yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's the word. And so we have them. And a deputy, a sheriff up in just north, we'll just say that, Lyon County. Stu lost a deputy because she got distracted entering an accident report while driving. And she died. She went off the road, hit the cemetery embankment, and it was a bad deal. And so I had another sheriff buddy of mine in Johnson County say that these things are a distraction. Guys are looking at it and pulled up to a stop sign, the crosswalk, white line, didn't see the bike, hits the bike. Didn't kill him, but they wrote a check for about $150. So I asked the sheriff in Johnson, I said, hey, what did you do? He said, I blacked out the screen. 10 miles an hour, screen's blacked out. And man, there's guys at our place didn't like it. And I said, here's the deal. I don't care if you like it or not. I'm not coming to your house to tell your wife or your spouse that you died because I put something in there and it was a distraction. You know, and one guy said, well, we might fight it. I said, good. It'd be great political coverage if I want to run again. You know, we have enough distractions in a car going 130 miles an hour. We don't need the extra distraction. And what I said, hey, so we'll go back the old-fashioned way. Where are you coming from? I'm on Highway 20. Where are you at? We'll communicate. I don't want you to look at the computer driving 120 miles an hour to a call. And they all agreed. Now, I never asked after I left if they got it back. It's none of my business. I hope they didn't, but if they did, that's a decision that the sheriff made.
Well, yeah, I always thought, 'cause with you guys in law enforcement having the screens, and there's valuable resources. I mean, we have our iPads and stuff, but usually it's just the officer who's not driving the vehicle that's looking at the thing. But it's like, if I'm on my cell phone and I pass, you're going to pull me over for being a distracted driver and having my cell phone, but you guys have a computer screen right there.
Right there.
That kind of stuff. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, and distracted is distracted.
Absolutely.
Right? So.
And we would have citizens call us on a number of occasions. How is that right? And I said, it isn't. No. And we'll figure it out. And so we fixed it. And, I like I said, I went to Sheriff Stew's after his deputy died. I went up there. It was part of my area if it was a Northwest Iowa sheriff that lost a deputy, you kind of go be with them and kind of help him out. He felt horrible because he put him in and kind of blamed himself, and there's no blaming yourself on those things. And so, like I said, I didn't want to have to be that guy. I had one incident. The deputy got fired upon about 8 rounds down near the airport. It was Ron Lynn's on the fire department when you were there.
Yep.
His son.
Okay.
And, man, I'll tell you what, it shook me to my core is to hear him, calling for help. And, man, that I feared losing somebody, and I think we all fear that.
Yeah.
And we had lost somebody like you guys did, yours in 82. And ours in 1993. Sheriff Amig was new sheriff, and 2 of our guys died in a plane crash transporting an inmate. And if you've ever had to go through that, that is tough. So when I became sheriff, I got an honor guard together, and we started going to different funerals of fallen firefighters or law enforcement officers, because they showed up when our guys died in 1993. And, every funeral I ever went to, you always see the fire there with the huge flag. I went to the Dallas funeral down there when those 5 were killed, me and
the Dallas officers there.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. And I've gone to Des Moines, just different areas, probably several. And we made it a point that we would say that you would go within a day's drive. And we had a fund, Sheriff's Foundation, that people would donate, and that would send them. So it didn't cost taxpayers, because somebody's going to say, oh, that's my taxpayers' money. Going, well, no, guess what? Yeah. People donate because they care and they see the reason, the validity of doing that. So we did that. That was kind of and it's been carried on, and I'm glad to see that continue on.
That's a powerful thing. How many go to those?
Yeah.
How many deputies, I guess, on like a shift? Getting back to structure. Like how many deputies are covered in Woodbury County? Because Woodbury County,
800
geographically, it's a huge huge area. It's only 125,000 people, but it's it's pretty rural. Once you get outside of Sioux City, it's pretty rural.
You leave, say we're out here, and I go to Danbury, probably 55 miles.
Yeah.
So here's the deal: I'm at gunpoint with a guy. And my help's in Mobile. That's still 30 miles.
Yeah.
So I've always said a deputy needs to be a very good negotiator.
Yeah.
Policies may be written by somebody in a sterile office writing them. I can remember that I was down in Sergeant Bluff. This guy was 6'7", 350. And I said, hey, you got warrants for you? I said, we're going to have to go to jail. He said, you can't handcuff me. You handcuff me, the fight's on. Call for help. And the female officer that pulled up was like 5 months pregnant. I thought, stay in the car. Yeah. I'll take the ass whipping. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I negotiated. I said, all right. I said, I can remember the guy that wrote that policy. I said, how about this? I'm going to loop it through your belt. We're going to do like this. We're be in the front. But when you get up to jail, I'll put like 3 on. You have to go back. I said, well, let's just get to the first part. I thought if I can get there, maybe the cavalry will help. I don't know. But, we negotiated and we got there. Next day, somebody in the administration said, hey, you violated policy. Well, guess what? I'm alive.
Yeah.
So policy is kind of one of those things that, we can adapt. I get it. It's a guideline, but it doesn't mean I'm stuck by it. I think that I was able to make a situation better. And so that was that incident. But
Yeah. Any other, as your time as sheriff, you talked about the screens. What else did you do during your time that you remember as big milestones that you achieved?
Well, the body cameras were huge.
Okay.
And then in the jail, we put like a scanner. So like if you're at the airport, you go through it because so many people bring, they ingest it, do all kinds of things. And this will, yeah.
The
And
pocket.
so, yeah. So we had that. That was an expensive item to buy, but in the code of Iowa, there's an inmate. When we have inmates, there's money that comes back to the board or the general fund, or it can be designated to the sheriff. So we worked out an agreement with the board. Hey, listen, as long as I can ask you for these items, then I'm good. I don't care if you can get the room and board money, just as long as we get that. We worked out a great deal. So we were able to do that. We went to, which was huge, we went to 24/7 nursing. So what used to happen is in the jail after 6 o'clock, some guys, we're not doctors or nurses. I don't know. He looks okay. You call. Well, is he moving, breathing? Yeah. Well, we had a few incidents. And so we changed that culture and our lawsuits went way down because of body cameras, because of 24/7 nursing. Body cameras, like I said, all those things helped us. Those things were important. There's probably a few others.
Did you bring it? So, like, two things, but one is, so did you bring ever for your officers, or at least for your leadership and stuff? Did you ever do anything, bring in any like leadership training or anything, any that kind of stuff for your people?
We had a great budget for training, so we were always. If somebody in our union came and said, hey, we'd like to go to this, if we couldn't get it here, we would send 2 or 3 and do the trainer. And so the board, I would say, was very good about getting us the dollars necessary for training, because when I took office, the training budget was only $10,000. Can you imagine? We had 120 employees.
Yeah.
I mean, so we built that up to over 75,000. And in our budget, we had some room for, it isn't just a straight line item. If I was long here, I could move some money over there to help for training. And we were always doing that, and that just invaluable. We really never denied anybody training that was going to be valuable for the whole organization. We weren't looking to make somebody a superstar and just train them, but we wanted to benefit everybody. And train the trainer is great. I'm sure you guys do that. Limited on what you can do. And so then I think Chad is probably continuing on that way. Prairie Hill, we built the Prairie Hill Center, tore down the old building and built that new building and used it for training. Area law enforcement, first responders, whoever. So there's continual training going on out there. Really a state-of-the-art range also. So
well, you said something with the jail and stuff, and that's actually, when you think about the sheriffs, you see driving around and think about patrolling out in the county, but the jail falls under
sheriff.
The sheriff also, right?
And we have about 65 when I was there, 65 employees. I think they've upped it now because the new jail's going from 235 inmates to, I think, 425.
Wow.
So, it's going to be nice when it's done. I may not have agreed with how it, I mean, I'm just giving my personal opinion. They should have went local. Klinger was there. Those would have been jobs that stayed in our community. But I was out of the picture. So they went with this company. They've had some issues. Hopefully nothing like this past jail's been. But I think it'll be all right. It's beautiful. I just see it. I drive by. I got to be honest with you, there's a sign out there that says Woodbury County Jail coming soon. I have wanted to stop by and say maybe someday, but I didn't want to get arrested for graffiti. But I do kind of laugh at it when I do it. But it'll be there before long. And the personnel that work in the jail, the toughest job.
Right.
One of the things I did when I started was, say you had been on 10 years and your day off was only going to be Monday and Tuesday forever. The only people that got Saturday and Sunday were administration or somebody that had 20 years on. How crazy is this? They were wondering why we're losing people. So we went to a pitman schedule. Pitman schedule is you get every other weekend off, and one weekend you work, 1 week you work 3, and the next week you work 2. I said, give me a try. See if you like this. If you don't like it after 6 months, they were the only people that were really objecting were the guys Saturday and Sunday.
Guys, sure.
Yeah.
But
Obviously.
I went to them after 6 months, and they were like, no way, leave it. Don't even touch it. And because you want to keep people. You train them. You want to keep them. They love it, and they've continued on. The downside, 12 hours is a long day. 12 hours is a long day in being in a jail with inmates. But, the plus is they think, 3 days I can get through this. And that's 3 full days, because you think about it, it's an hour before work, an hour and after work.
Right.
A 14-hour day. What do I get, 2 hours to do something? So
Yeah.
it is tough, and I'm sure the chief, deputy, and the sheriff are looking at maybe 10-hour days for, rotating. And they probably will be able to do it because they'll have more manpower. And I hope they do, because that's a tough job. And
Are they going to have a hard time? Do you think, you said law enforcement has a hard time recruiting? Are they going to have a hard time finding bodies to?
No,
to
they are sitting well.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm real happy. I'm sure Chad is, and the problem with that place in the jail is, and it's not a problem, but it's often used as a stepping stone. I'll be a jailer for a couple of years. I'm going to try it with the police department, sheriff's office, highway patrol, whatever. And so you lose them. Sometimes there's a lot, but we had a lot of good senior people, a dozen years on or more, that made it a career. And
Because do you have to work in the jail before you can be a deputy?
no.
Okay. So
No.
for some reason, I thought that was the case. And
Some counties, you get hired as a deputy, and you might spend 8 years in the jail before you get out.
Wow.
We don't do that because ours are civilian jailers. They're not deputies.
Gotcha.
And though they're, in my opinion, do every bit that a deputy does, if not more. They don't get a break. They don't get to drive around and, I'm going to go get a Slurpee over here at Come and Go, okay? They're stuck in there for 12 hours. So it's a tough job.
What's the hierarchy of authority for as far like because you got different law enforcement. You got Sioux City PD and they have a chief. You've got Woodbury County and a sheriff. You state patrol, and you got DOT, I guess, too, and stuff. But if you guys are on scene or whatever, who can pull, I guess, rank or jurisdiction when it gets to a chief of police versus a sheriff versus state patrol, whatever? Like where's the, I guess there's jurisdiction, the authority, who's got authority over who when it comes to an incident?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because I think, though I wasn't there, but I've been on a number of those. Were you guys around in 232? Flight
No,
232?
that was
No.
So if you go back then, Sioux City Fire Incident Command, that plane crash, we'll direct traffic, we'll do our thing, we'll help. So the incident down by Hornick, that was the sheriff's call. We call for help. Sioux City comes. Plymouth and Sioux County tactical teams. I don't think the good nature that we have here, one of the pluses is we all work together. Nobody cares who's going to. And so whoever the deputy in charge was, he would just, this is how we'd go. And everybody falls in line. I've never known that to be any different. Flight 232 was the same. Chief Hamilton, I was down there. Chief Hamilton, Gerald Donovan was the chief of police. Leo Miller was the sheriff. And I remember to this day, they were talking, people came in from United and wanted to know if the wreckage could be secured, and it would have to be watched 24/7. Talk about the right guy at the right place. Chief Hamilton said, that's not our deal. And Chief Donovan said, I don't have the bodies. And Sheriff Miller said, I don't have the bodies, but Drew's in the union. I bet he'll get some guys to do it. 4 years we guarded that wreckage till all the lawsuits were settled. Yeah, hardly anybody knew that. It was locked in a hangar down there, and it took 44 months till all the lawsuits were settled. And the one that was holding out was an elderly lady that really never got hurt. And So
you had to have a body on that
had to have body 24/7.
24/7,
Yeah.
44 months.
Yeah.
So is that like a side private contract for all the?
Oh yeah.
So
That was like
But we only made $12.50 an hour back then. But it was
At
a
the
lot
time,
of money.
you're like, yeah.
Funny story was I've set aside some because I was going to take the family because I was working and then working that. So I was going to take them to Disney World. Take them to Disney World.
Yeah.
I saved $3,000. Jeez,
Yeah.
that's like a miracle.
Yeah.
So I got to go do my taxes beforehand. Bob's my tax man. He's like, he said, did you put any of this aside? I go, no. He said, well, they didn't tax any. Oh, what do I owe? That $3,000 you saved? Yeah. I had to get a loan to take him to Disney World.
Oh, man.
So lesson learned.
Yeah.
I always took out a little extra, but that wreckage was, well, obviously it was a really pretty cool deal how we all worked together. And that goes back to the history of police, sheriff, fire, all working together, planning that disaster drill. Nobody guessed. Listen, that happened at a Thursday. I think it landed or crashed around 4 something, but around 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, the call came out. You did that on a Saturday? Be a whole different thing, right?
Right.
So we had people all there, and it just, it really worked out. 112 passed. I think it was 185 survived. The real story was the following day. I think I was there till 10 or 11 that night, and no any critical incident debriefing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Yep.
and I be honest, I went home and, man, what I saw, it choked me up. I mean, I don't. Some guys aren't that way, but I wear my emotions on my shirt sleeve, and that was tough. But it came back the next day, and bodies put into the morgue, and air guard, again, fire, police, sheriffs. But one thing you got to really say, all the rural firefighters came from all over to help. Pretty cool thing about our area that we work in, and we're very unique. And out of that, we got this radio system that we could all communicate with each other. And so there was a lot of pluses out of that. But I think the professional development with the fire, police, and sheriffs we're very unique. I've gone to different places in the country and nobody works together, except when we used to play flag football against each other.
Yeah.
That might be coming back, by the way.
That's what I heard.
That might
I
be
loved
coming
it.
I would.
Adam
We haven't
wants
played the
to-
hockey for a long time.
No,
Yeah.
we need to do
the
both.
hockey back.
Yes,
too.
you guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really do.
AP was gonna look into the flag football thing. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Guys are gonna get hurt. That's the only thing.
That's just
I'm
it. It gets,
tearing up,
it gets. Yep. Everybody gets a little beat up on that one.
Yeah.
That's why the hockey wasn't too bad because it's not check
Full checker. And
Yeah, it's like just full send. Right?
Football will get very
Yes.
competitive.
We did.
Or
It did.
basketball, but
We
we'd
were
be
smart.
better.
We went against rural fire. It was easier.
Right.
And I remember a Sioux City Fire and Police, and I thought, well,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I asked
Come
the
on,
story.
guys.
They one of the last times the fire department played. I can't remember what year it was, but they said they had like an ACL be torn.
oh
and
yeah. It
Guy-
Oh
was-
yeah.
guys-
Guys got beat up.
guys
Yeah.
were going off the job for like 2 months.
Yeah.
We gotta quit
right.
doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all type A personalities. You're
Yeah,
gonna.
right.
That's
you're
it.
gonna
Yeah,
get
you got
after it,
everybody's gonna go. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna full send it, even though they're 40 something
Right,
now and their body
exactly.
doesn't respond
Don't know
like
it.
it used to.
Absolutely.
act like I'm 20 again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it still thinks you still think it does and stuff.
That was going to be one of my questions, though, was the opportunities being sheriff, who else you've gotten to work with over the years, other agencies, other departments, things like that.
Well, I always worked with the Secret Service when President Bush came. That was kind of fun. Get your picture with the president.
W.
They were,
Twice, he
I would say
came
this,
twice.
like him or not, the guy was amazing. And one of the cool things was, so I was chief deputy and the sheriff, chief of police, a fire chief. I don't know if it was Tom or
At-
Oh,
that time, that was still that would have been Hamilton.
Hamilton, okay, and Captain Clays, and you all know Joe Frisbee, good guy.
Yep.
And going on and on. Yeah, when he comes in, he's going to know that I'm the chief of police, blah blah blah, and he's I'm sitting there thinking, what the heck am I going to say? So we watch him. He comes out of the limo, and man, that is cool. The Secret Service, they have an outfit, a group that, I'm sure they'll take out an army. And he gets out. He goes, does a speech. He comes around the corner after that, and he sees Sheriff Amick, and he's like, oh, yeah, every town you got to go to has got a sheriff. Sheriff's my guy. He grabs him like, oh, my God. They're like, I'm going to be like in the movie Forrest Gump. I got the pee. I don't know what I'm going to say. And he comes up to me and he goes, he said the sheriff's always got his right-hand man. And he shakes my hand. I'm like, oh, my God. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good luck. Blah, blah. I didn't know what to say. And he'd been friendly with us, and he walks by Joe Frisbee, says, Chief, and he kept going. We were like, So that was kind of fun. But
that's funny.
I think I did 8 years with Drug Enforcement Administration. I worked
there you go.
For 8 years. That was the best of everybody says, hey, was sheriff being? No, 8 years working narcotics was the funnest time.
Oh
yeah. I did undercover operations as a FedEx driver, UPS driver. I'm hesitant because you all fire guys. I don't want you to dislike me. I don't know if you ever remember, but we borrowed your rig and went to this call. We made it up that there was a gas leak in the neighborhood. And so we left at the station by the sheriff's office. Is that 3?
By
one?
the sheriff, station 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we had it all set up. And I can still remember the guy. He's driving, and I always wanted to blow that air horn. And finally, we're at West 7th and Hamilton, and he says, you like that air horn? Yeah, I couldn't help. I kept going. So we pulled into this neighborhood with Mid-American Energy, because this guy supposedly had explosives. And probably should have did better planning. But so we got the whole neighborhood started coming out because, we're blasting the horn. And he comes out, and I'm dressed in fireman gear and another guy. And he goes, what's going on? Well, there's a gas leak. We're trying to get everybody out, this and that. And he takes a look, and you could see him trying to get back to the door. I tackle him, and I just cuffed him, and I said, we're not with the fire department. Which probably in hindsight, it wasn't maybe the smartest. Cause,
right.
We don't want to put firefighter in harm's way, but we thought it was good, and we did. There were some things in there. We should have called ATF at the beginning, but, you live and learn. Chief Hamilton was good with it. Some other people weren't. And we never did it again. But, wait, let me tell you, what a victory.
What year was that?
Oh, that had to be
I remember.
98.
I was going to say, I remember when I came on them talking about, vaguely talking about that where, there was, when you talk about with Union and some of the other guys and stuff that some people weren't happy because,
it could put you in a bad light.
Right. It could, for us because, but
it's a great
if you get
story.
the bad guy. Yeah, it is a good story. and you got to blow the air horn. So.
Oh my God.
Now I know.
Now we really
That's
know
one of those
that,
now
that
I know
cops,
situations.
Yeah.
All right, we won't do it again. Now I know.
Yeah, but
it was cool. We did it.
Or this is just fact that that the cops really do want to be firefighters.
So
much that they're like, hey, we're gonna make up a call so we can go get a bad guy just so we can dress up as firefighters.
So somebody said, now, this is where I'm really going to get in trouble. But, they say, sheriffs, police, they do ride-alongs, right?
Yep.
And you guys do sleepovers.
Yeah. That's right.
No, we got to give each other a hard time.
That's good.
I think it's a great place. We're going to take a break, come back, and we'll get into the second half.
All right.
Thank you.
You're good.
Yeah.
Don't come.
Get out. I
don't
don't
have to
care.
come
I don't
in.
care how I get out of it. I'll do what I got to do. All right, so we are back. Ryan took a pee, and we can continue with Dave Drew. So, Phil, you kind of had a good question during the break here that you wanted to ask.
I thought, because we've talked a lot about the history of the fire services, but what about the history of the sheriff's department, going way back as far as, how did it come about, I guess,
Well, yes, the state law every county has to have a sheriff. They have to be elected. So you have an elected county attorney, you have elected auditor. All those things are part of the process. You know, I can't tell you which came first, Sioux City Police or Woodbury County Sheriffs. But
But even going like way back, because you know, like Robin Hood, you got the sheriff of Nottingham that's always coming in like, you know, sheriff, my birthday present. You know,
well, it came from England. We know that.
Yeah.
And it was Shire and Reeves, and had something to do with land assessment. And when they came over, I think it was in Virginia when the first sheriff's office started setting up.
So one more thing we took from the English and perfected it, and then kicked them out, just
So,
like the language.
If you talk to a sheriff, when you say sheriff's department, we kind of cringe, because it's the office of sheriff. Okay. It's just technicality.
Yeah,
sure.
But sheriff's department would mean like the police department or the water department or you know, whatever, because then it'd be under like a mayor or city.
A city.
Right.
And so the sheriff, he's elected and he's autonomous. He's equal to the board and others.
Because there's only a sheriff
for each county.
and then everybody else is a deputy. Then.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I mean, just little things.
Right.
That,
but it's smoke alarm versus smoke detector.
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
absolutely.
it's like, you know, the general public is like,
they don't.
But, you know, but if you're in it, you're like, you know,
yeah, it's, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but at times the only reason I wanted to do it was because I wanted the board to remember that we're you know, hey, you're not over me,
That's right.
and I'm not over you. So this is how it works. You get me my dollars and people. Other than that, you don't control policy.
So with that, as far as, you know, with the sheriff and so your deputy, you still hire people and stuff, but can you do stuff like TV or in the movies? Can you just like flip a badge across the thing, and be like, you know, I need some bodies and stuff? Can you put together a posse? Because the sheriff has a posse,
has
right?
a reserve unit. Yeah.
Yes.
So when I started, we had then it was called Sheriff's Posse.
Yep.
And some sheriffs, and I worked for one that had a sheriff's card that said, this guy would get stopped and say, I'm a friend of the sheriff. You know, like,
Yeah.
You know, which
I am too.
I thought today, man,
it's like name dropping.
You got a 50-50 chance that might work, you know. So they perfected it and then went to Sheriff's Reserve, and there's so much classes they got to take, and it's all across the state, same amount of classes. And then they have to go through like a field training program before they can get out on their own. So, yeah, it's good because we're in such a rural area that you really can't, you know, have one guy in every town, or you know, it's hard. You know, you were talking, and I'm gonna guess there's probably 30 some on patrol. So you divide that up 3 different ways, and you got to make sure you're at minimum staffing.
Yeah.
When I started, minimum staffing was 2. You
Good
and the other
Lord.
guy in
For the whole county?
For the whole county.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you had one guy make an arrest, you were solo for
Yeah.
the whole, you know, you were hoping. So, you know, we kind of had that rule, unless it's really serious, better not take him to jail because I'm out here by myself.
Yeah.
Now, you might have had a trooper in the area. You know, he could have been 70 miles away.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
That would have been it. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there was times that, you know, we relied a lot, Sioux City PD leaving their area to cover us.
Yeah.
Because otherwise help was a long ways away.
Dude.
And there's no better sound than having the cavalry come.
Absolutely.
So when you were sheriff, did any of your deputies patrol in Sioux City?
They could if there's warrants or there's evictions or there's some kind of civil paper, but it wouldn't be to patrol the area.
Yeah, because you would assume city PD would take care of that. And
There could be times, though, if they are very swamped on, say they were on a homicide and we had extra bodies, then we would come in and help on different calls.
Okay.
You know, I can think of a few incidents. Jill Ohm got shot. Kevin McCormick. And so we know enough that we would come in and help on calls because all those guys are hands on deck helping on that incident. So.
I remember the McCormick deal because in Sergeant Bluff and living on a street with a couple in development neighborhood with a couple deputies that lived there and stuff. And when that call went out, I mean, those dudes were like, coming out racing out of Sergeant Bluff. Just it was like all hands coming to that one. Yeah. So is that the county? I guess so. Let's say. Even with like you said, with two guys or whatever, but somebody calls outside of, Moleville, Lawton or whatever, because does their jurisdiction then pretty much end at the city line? So if they had something that was, 2 miles outside of town, 3 miles, I mean, they might go depending on how serious.
Yeah.
But is it technically the county's?
Right. Yeah. If it's outside the city's jurisdiction, they would be there to assist.
Yeah.
And they do it. They do it often and very appreciative.
I just think because, depending on, like you said, depending on how many deputies, you don't know where everybody's at. Right. Woodbury County stretches quite a ways.
Yeah.
If you got somebody here, there, whatever, and you're on the other end of the county for a call, it's going to take you a little bit. It's not like you call 911 here and in town and couple minutes, you got an officer.
And in some of those really, really small towns, the office of sheriff is the authority in that town.
Yes.
Because they don't have a local officer.
Yeah, don't have.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we had you guys have that agreement. All of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank.
Mutual aid.
Yeah.
Kind of mutual aid, but it's a document signed. And, we would cover for them and they would cover for us. And so we have that. I like I said, I just think that the incident down by Hornick, Holly Springs, is a great example of everybody working together, and that has gone on for time and memoriam. It really has. It's a nice deal.
So what are the differences in responsibilities between city police and then Woodbury County Sheriffs?
Well, so we have a patrol division.
Yep.
But then we have they have an invest, we have an invest. But the biggest thing is probably the jail and civil papers.
Okay.
And things such as that. Like that could be a writ of removal. A writ of removal it's so old school. It bothered me, but it's still written in the law that you have to pay your judgment that's against you, and you own a business. I just go in the cash register and take the money. Wow. I'm like, whoa. Yeah.
That does seem like an old
some wild
west.
It is. Yeah. Like, whoa, we can do that.
Yeah.
And but that's it. And you just take it back and give them a receipt. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But it happens a lot. It still goes on. Evictions. Yeah. Evictions. Well, when I first started, it was the farm crisis. That was hard. Family farms forever being auctioned off. And, that was really, really
that's
hard.
like the sheriff's auctions.
Yep. And those were tough.
Yeah.
Those were tough times. And, you lose a family farm.
Century Farms. And,
and you're up against a lot.
I say, because what's the history in Plymouth County? They hung the sheriff, they hung the judge. In like the Great Depression, like the Dust Bowl area. Yeah. I remember hearing a story about that. I don't know if it rung a bell with you, Devin.
I think you're making that up, but it sounds good.
No, it's a real story.
Really?
Somewhere in Iowa.
Yeah.
But I thought it was Plymouth County for some reason.
Like literally hung up?
Yeah, they hung. So they either hung the judge that put all the eviction notices out on all these farms, or they hung the sheriff. I can't remember which one.
Wow.
But
maybe the judge.
Yeah, I think that was great. Great Depression era. Plymouth County. I'm going to fact check this a bit, but
we're going to we got a producer fact checking it right now.
Ryan's already over there.
That's so dumb. Get the correction.
Pop in there if we need to find me. I'm going to look really smart or really dumb. But so like if there's a warrant for arrest in somewhere in city limits, and then I assume you communicate with PD saying, hey, we got a warrant for this guy. If PD's like, we're busy, you guys go deal with it, or is it joint effort, or they could say, we'll take care of it. You don't even need to.
Yeah, I guess who serves the warrants and stuff.
Whoever comes across them.
Okay.
And then they have to read them the warrant on the back and can sign it, and they brought up to the jail. So it's
other than my outstanding record, that's why they take so long when you're stopped, because they're running checking you for warrants, all that, right?
Yeah.
So
make it.
I'm always hoping that I hope he remembers me. I have no clout anymore, so I'm back to 7 over on the highway. I think I'm pretty safe.
Like, so you can pull over like, hey, don't you know I used to be the sheriff? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. If like someone did give you like some young guy gives you a ticket, and then one of the older guys like you gave Dave Drew a ticket.
That's
What's funny is
young kid be like,
we always had a deal with somebody would always say, hey, my neighbor, he's the sheriff, and so I have some friends that would say, and I can't.
I'm sure
stand him.
everyone in law.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
They deputies go, I can't stand him, and they were like, did you know that deputy? I said, it's kind of an old thing. Maybe he can't, but I don't know.
Do you know Joel Bertrand at all?
Oh, do I ever?
Yeah.
Do I need to go farther?
If you have any Joel stories, I'd love to hear.
No.
But I'm pretty sure when he was the Hinton cop, he gave Captain DeBon a ticket.
Like twice,
right before he got on the job,
and then he hires, does his 3 weeks and runs into the guy. And,
wow!
Captain Wynn too. I believe DJ got pulled.
Yeah, so
that's why.
If only they knew what they know now.
He didn't belong in law enforcement. So.
Belushi.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good guy.
Oh, that's fun. What else we got in here? You guys got anything? Trying to think what we've called.
I don't know. I've learned a lot about the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I didn't
for sure. Like just the scope of what they do as far as just really. And I guess maybe people don't think of that as far as broad as what it covers.
Yeah,
it's
we're responsible for the courts.
Mm-hmm.
So the judges and make sure that the jury's safe coming and going, housing and moving inmates. So there's a lot. I think in the code section, there's like 60 some things that the sheriff does.
Wow.
I mean, some of it's so old, like you're transporting horses and you get stopped. You have to show sheriff the receipt of your horses. I'm thinking I never did any of that.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, there's some that are really old, but kind of funny.
Like I say, go back to the Old West stuff.
We had a guy. He's a great guy, and he's now the chief in Altoona, but in the code section, it says, when the sheriff is not present, you are he. So in absence, then now you're the sheriff. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so one of the things in there, it said that each town marshal would tell the sheriff what their plans were for that night. And so leave it to this guy. He's on nights, and he'd read the code section, so he calls the captain on the PD and says, hey, Captain Deputy Stallman, I'd like you to tell me what your plans are for tonight. And he's like, what? Yeah, in the code section, you have to tell me. So it wasn't that, I mean, we were dying, but apparently it then went to the chief who went to our chief. And he got called in, what are you doing? So I said, maybe not, the comedy might not go as well.
Yes, very.
So I thought it was funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You're mentioning some of those people you came on with that went on to be chiefs and sheriffs and held senior positions other places. Who are the people that had an impact on your career during your time with the sheriff's office?
Oh boy, I'll tell you what. I had a great sergeant, Sergeant Michelson, and he was an old military guy, polished, and man, he was so old school that he wouldn't ever put his cigarettes in his front pocket. He put them down in his sock because it couldn't crease his uniform.
Wow.
Yeah, and so Chris Jacobson and I were on afternoons together, and he's training us, but I had already gone through some of it, so I was behind, the car behind, and he's going to have Chris make traffic stops. And it's one of them March times when we had some snow and now it's gone. And we pull over on the road that goes to Pearson, leave Leeds, and it goes east to Pearson, and gets this guy speeding. And he says, all right, make this stop here. So I pull in behind, and Sarge Mike gets out, and he slides down the bottom of the hill, mud and snow. And we're trying not to laugh. And so he comes up, and he's all dirty, and he was never dirty. This guy was pressed and polished. And he says, pop that trunk, I need a blanket. So we're trying not to laugh. And the next thing you know, he said, follow me to my house. And he gets out, and he's got another Class A uniform that looked better than the other. I'm like, geez, none of us have that. But he's an old military guy.
Sure.
I learned a lot about a command presence and looking good. I learned a lot. Joe Frisbee's a good friend of mine. Joe taught me a lot, especially, as sheriff, and what to do, what not to do. And work with the group. Dave Amick was a great sheriff. I learned a lot from him. The guy was very patient as Job, never quick to react. And I think I learned that though you may be annoyed by what was done to you, settle down and think it through, so don't react on bad things. But yeah, there was just, I think throughout my time, I learned from every sheriff I ever worked for, I learned something, maybe there were some bad things, but I learned from it, Glenn Parrott didn't call it community policing, but he was. Okay, he was out in the public, always talking to people. That's important because just driving by, you never develop those relationships. I give you a classic example. There's a deputy named Frank Kofka, and he was similar in that way that he was always communicating with the public, stop and talk. And one time I'm pulling in the little town of Odo, and this guy's waving, and I pulled up and I said, "Yeah, can I help you?" "Oh, no, I thought you were Frank." "Well," I said, "Frank's off, but can I help you?" "No, I'll wait till he comes back." And I thought, huh? So I tell Frank, "Hey, this guy." So next day I said, "Frank, what did he say?" "Oh, that guy over there's got a warrant he wanted to tell me." I thought, but that's a development of relationships that people have.
Definitely.
And they don't, they're not going to talk to just somebody.
Yeah.
Because if I tell you and you might be that guy, yeah, okay, and didn't do a darn thing about it. But they knew that, some of these deputies will do because they have built that relationship. So that's pretty neat. And that's what I try to communicate with the newer deputies. Don't just write tickets, okay? There's not a toaster at the end of the month for the most tickets you wrote, okay? So get out and communicate, because that person that you keep writing a ticket to might be the one that helps you when there's a big, crap storm happening.
Yeah, sure.
And they'll be there for you. So think about it. You can go a long ways by working with people versus just, this is the code section and that's why I'm writing you. So I think that's one of the things that we all try to embody to people is they're here. It's not a warrior mentality; it's a guardian mentality.
Wow.
That's the way to look at it.
I like that.
That's very nice.
Do you think that's in general for like a specifically the sheriff's department versus maybe other law enforcement agencies?
Well, I think at one time there might have been that warrior mentality, but I think we've learned that we get a lot farther by realizing we're the guardians of the community, and it takes everybody to work together.
I was to say, what's the overall mission statement of the sheriff's office?
To make sure that everybody's safe and that everybody feels free to move around, and that this communication is two-way. It's just not one way. And it's important. I can't remember. I wrote that a long time ago. The mission statement and the vision statement or whatever. And copied and pasted a little, added a few things. If what you want it to be, and I'm sure Chad has that. Rex has that, and it's mainly the theme is to treat others a valued citizen. You want to value, their community enhancement or however that would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much of that sheriff's is your job then is sheriff and stuff? Is how much of it's pretty much like office being political and just budgets and stuff versus actual policing? I mean, how much as a sheriff do you actually get out and get to, and do the job like your law enforcement job? Yeah,
unfortunately, it's a lot of administrative details, but I had a good chief deputy, Tony Wingert. He's still Chad's chief, and Captain Harlow and Captain Garrett. They let me get out, do a little bit. Funny side is I tried to go out, and then, like if you were getting out on traffic, out of nowhere you had like 13 cars covering you. Like, okay. I think they're probably saying, oh man, the old man's out. Yeah. So I hope he doesn't stumble again. Yeah. I remember one was an incident. It was a civil. They were going to move somebody. And I thought, I'm close by. I'm going to drive in, and pulled up, and I heard the one deputy say, "Hey, take the sheriff over there on that side." I thought, geez. I mean, come on, guys. I want to be a part of it too, But that's how it was. But I get it,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes one of the other hang-ups, I think if you show up and there's a supervisor on scene, then the supervisor thinks, you don't think I can do the job.
All right.
So it kind of comes one of those things you want to tell them, hey, I'm just here, don't want to hang out in the office. but then there's that worry, like you don't think I can do the job if I do
Right.
it. So, yeah, it was that was one of the downsides. You know, I can tell you, I was a deputy 29 years.
Yeah.
29, and the other 8 or 9, I was became a supervisor. I got more time being a guy out the foot, ground pounder, and so I didn't forget where I came from. But all of a sudden, now it's different.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, going to lunch, guy?
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't want to go to lunch. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I enjoyed working with them, and I one thing I miss about it, if anything, I miss some of the camaraderie. Some of that, but I don't miss the late night calls. Listen, I'm older. I get up and go to the bathroom, but I fall right back to sleep.
Yeah.
I know that Chad and Rex don't have that luxury.
You talk about your 29 years as the deputy, or before you became the sheriff. Any memorable calls that we haven't talked about yet that come to mind? That'd be some good stories.
Oh, not to be a downer, but one of the hardest things, and we teach or try our best, is to death notifications are the worst. And if you're a deputy, you do them out in the county because you don't have the luxury of like city here.
Yeah.
They'll be at the hospital, and the hospital will tell them.
Right.
So we're the bearers of bad news, and there is nothing good about that. I've said over and over, I'd rather get my butt kicked in a bar fight than having to go do that. And far too many times deputies had to do it, and far too many times I had to do it. And they know, they see you coming
When that car drives up the driveway.
And there is, and you've all heard it, in the pit of their stomach, that cry or scream. And you're like, whoa. And, you just don't forget it.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I tell them, listen, it's okay to show emotion. I can't think of one I never went to that I didn't get choked up. You got to show empathy. You got to have some compassion. And, they don't teach that at the academy.
No.
Yeah.
And so the only time you might get it is when you're getting FTO'd and you're pulling up with another deputy and he has to be the bearer of the bad news. And that's tough. The one that I remember was there were some people that died out by climbing hill, and we couldn't identify this person, but we were pretty sure it was this guy. So we had to drive to farther away to Danbury. And for whatever reason, they wanted to ride with me and somebody else. And all the way there, the mom kept saying, "Oh, I know it's not him." And I kept trying to tell the dad, "No, I think it is." And then we got to the morgue, and oh my goodness, all hell broke loose. It was off. So that is probably the most difficult. Fun calls. There was always interesting calls.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can share some of those. Probably like you. But calls are always unique and different. There's a lot of different things, but probably not best to be aired. You have to have a good sense of humor, just like firefighters.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see things, and maybe the only way to get through some of it is you kind of chuckle and think, "Wow, okay." But remember, I can't really nail a good one.
Because we ask a lot of guests this question, and I always think if we should ask it in the future I should ask it like positive, funny, and then maybe some serious.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that you can maybe triggers a couple memories better that way.
Well, okay, now I got one.
Okay.
Funny. I am on Highway 20, and I decide I'm going to sneak over. No, I'm on Old 20, Correctionville Road. Yep. And I'm going to sneak over to 20 and then head towards Lawton. And sure enough, there's a car on the gravel, kind of parked, like it's probably Parker's. I'm like, oh my God. It wasn't my bag. I'm like, oh my God. So I got my lights going. I got the spotlight going. And I walk up and I said to the lady, I said, they're in this different position and not all clothed. And I said, "Ma'am, are you where you want to be?" Well, she said, "I guess." And I'm like, that's not really helping me.
Yeah.
Well, we're staying with his parents. We came from Missouri, and he can't have sex in the house with his mom and dad. So here we are. I'm thinking. It's probably my funnest call. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So come on.
Gonna have to find another place. Sorry.
That was a good one. If I get a motel, I don't know.
Yeah.
Gravel. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, you get a lot of that. I probably got more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. What you see is crazy. I did have a guy that he was window peeking, and he was from California, and he was out on the gravel, and he was dressed as I'm coming from an after prom party. We had to work those. So I'm taking the back road home thinking, this is perfect. I don't want to go through town.
Yep.
Let's take the back road. And as I'm coming on this gravel, I'm like, what the heck? So I stop, get the spotlight. It was a guy dressed like Little Bo Peep. Yeah, he's window peeking in dress and everything.
And you're going, what did I just?
I thought, why did I take this route?
Why me?
Are you kidding me? So I'm like,
You're like, hey, Phil.
yeah. I'm like, hey, get out. No, you'll shoot
Phil,
me.
get
No,
back.
get your ass out. I want to see who you are. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just flat out told
I
him.
dressed nicer than
Yeah.
or like something sparkly.
You end up out like this window peeking, you're going to get strung up. Well, I'm from California. Well, you're in Iowa.
I picked the wrong place, boy.
Yeah,
like-
yeah. So, yeah.
Well, yeah.
They found some reason to take him to jail just like Little Bo Peep. Yeah. I don't know what the charge was. Yeah. So.
How was that bringing that into the jail?
Well, yeah. I'm sure at the fire station you get. So, I got a lot of messages. Hey, Little Bo Peep wants to know if you'll bail her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to have that sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just when you thought you saw it
Yeah,
all, or then
absolutely.
you get the next call and you're like, wow, that's okay.
That just happened.
It just did happen. You can't make it up.
Nope.
No.
36 years with the sheriffs. Is that my math
30.
right?
Well, I got hired January 6th, and so they counted as 37. That's close enough. I might be
Close
5
enough.
days short. Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be a few in there, I'm sure, that are pretty good over the years.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. There was plenty.
So now, 37, so retired as sheriff. You're still active out at Western Iowa Tech with the police science program and
Yes.
stuff. We bump into each other
Yeah.
every now and again
Yeah.
out there. You seem like you always got a big group of kids out there and stuff. It looks
yeah.
like your numbers have always stayed pretty good.
They have. I
you know.
really thought they wouldn't after the George Floyd incident. I really didn't.
Which is good. It's good because I know like our fire numbers had dipped down, but they came up back up this semester. It's really good. So we'll see what next semester brings and stuff. But besides that, what's retirement look like for you?
Well, I really enjoy what I do, but I keep telling my wife the fun meter's running.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get going.
Yeah.
Like this week, I'd put my bike on a trailer. We both would, and we'd be riding down in Tennessee or Texas, And I think she's getting close. She's been with the Department of Human Services 40 years.
Wow.
As a social worker, yeah. So I told her, "What are you waiting for? Like a plaque? And
Yeah.
let's get out of here."
Yeah.
But, no, I think she's talking about retiring next December. And so then I'm going to probably maybe December the following May.
Well, it's like you said, you like what you're doing, you like working with the kids, and then but who's that person that comes in after you? That's kind of where we're at with our program. We're still kind of building still some things I'd like to see happen and stuff, but it's like, who's the people coming in after you to continue the program?
Yeah. Well, I've never thought that there wasn't, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but there's always somebody that's going to replace the next guy.
Yeah.
And they'll do just as good, Chad's doing a bang-up job, and I'm glad I'm a distant memory, And when Chad leaves, he'll be the next guy. And same with, after Joe left, and then there was Doug Young, and now there's Rex. And I'm sure after Bob, your chief, Everett, Tom, great guy. And there's the next guy to step up. And so we're fortunate in that. But yeah, Whit, here's the deal. I keep saying, I want to be done. And then you graduate a class, or I do the police academy too. Okay. So I do that twice a year. And we graduate into class this Thursday. There's 9, one from Sioux City PD and some others outlying area. And it's fun. They're excited about getting out. I tell them a few war stories. I said, now you can't do that, but yeah, it does. kind of reinvigorate you. Like, oh, this is good.
Stay in touch with the kids after they get out and get some time on some departments.
I had one that he never showed up. I got a rule like most of you, if you got to be here 10 minutes early. If you're not, you're late. Okay. And this guy was notorious, like 1 minute till, and they knew my PT instructor and DT instructor knew it was kind of getting to me. And I'm looking out, and he's unloading his truck, trying to out of his trunk grab everything, and he's running. And he's got 1 minute to get there. So I locked the door. Said, "Screw it, you're not here." And so Willie Garrett and Sage Lewis worked his tail off. I mean, like, he had to do wall sits, everything. I mean, they worked him hard. And he graduated, and I don't say we had the greatest relation, but I just tried to tell him, you need to learn about timeliness. So I'm up at the lakes, I'm pulling into the gas station, and all of a sudden this squad's behind me. My wife says, "That squad's behind you." I said, "God, I hope it ain't that kid that So I pull in, and he pulls in behind me, and he goes, "Hey, wanted to thank you." I thought, "Oh, thank God." I thought, God, he's going to be ticked off, and I'm going to get a ticket for something.
Yeah.
He was good. He figured it out. And I in the academy, you just tell them, hey, our rule was when I was sheriff is there's one way to the academy and one way home. But if you mess up, you're not stopping back here. You're done. Okay. And so we never had anybody that had those issues, and
that's good.
So we haven't had that at the regional academy either. So yeah. Good. So that's what I've been doing in retirement. Listen, for fun, and I'm a fun believer. So we ride motorcycles. I take a few trips a year. Went to Banff, Canada, Glacier, and the Grand Tetons. I bought my wife a Can-Am Spider, so two wheels in the front, one in the back, and she's just loving life. And I got my Harley, and we kind of try to put on about 10,000 miles a summer riding somewhere, and we like to do that a little bit more. But right now, working, got soon to be 9 grandkids, so that keeps us.
Congratulations.
There you go. That'll keep
that's
busy.
The best. Yeah, I mean, if I could play this video of my one granddaughter, she's a pistol. She'll be 3, and she's a character. Give me one of the deals like I have a house up at the lakes, and there's a canal, and it goes out to the big lake, and the dogs are in the canal swimming. I grab them, and now where the heck she go? And I'm like, almost trying not to get panicky, but what the heck? And in that little time, and she ran over all the way to the other side of the canal where it goes out into the lake. And I'm yelling, like one of them like death screams. Get over here. She comes walking. And so my wife says, "Where were you?" And she won't talk. She's fingers like this. "Oh, what did Papa say?" I mean, just she's 3. I'm like, giving me the business here. Already, and she knew I was scared.
You get the body cam out.
Yeah.
Show them what happened.
I'm going to show her. Yeah. But she plays that little game. My grandsons plays football for Lawton. And all of a sudden, their parents watching the game, and the next thing, where did she go? She's a darter, man. She'll take off. And she decided she'd play hide and seek up on the parking lot. And they on the loudspeaker trying to find her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so my son starts like, "Oh my God," he said, "Nobody take her." And finally she pops out and goes, "Oh, sorry, Dad." Half your life.
Yeah, it just took years off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, I still ref basketball, high school basketball.
Nice.
It's all about angles at my age. Can't get them right. But there's a funny story, and I don't want to keep you long. But
you're fine.
You're fine.
Is I do my granddaughter's game. She plays for East. And my wife's there, and son, his wife, grandkids. Everybody's watching Maya. And I got a call. I called it on her. She looks at me and says, "Papa, that's not even a good call." I'm like, And then I hear out of the stands, my wife, That's horrible. Like, wow, I got no respect.
I got nothing.
Well, maybe family would back me. You know, I got nothing. Yeah.
Jeez.
All the way home, my wife said, "Why would you call that?" I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Geez."
gosh.
Right,
Like,
call.
seriously?
Yeah.
Let's go back. Yeah, let's get that. It's a replay. We'll go to the
Yeah.
That's really
It was a
funny.
good
I
call.
got the stripes. That's why. You know?
And so you have 9 grandkids. What do you have for kids?
Four.
Four kids.
Yeah. My son's the oldest and 3 daughters.
Okay. Anyone?
son-
Go ahead.
He works for the 185th full time.
That's right.
My daughter works for Department of Human Services, social worker like her mom. My other daughter is works for Department of Corrections.
Okay.
And my youngest daughter, as I told her, she's the HR person for VT Industries. And I told her, nobody likes HR.
No. People like HR less than they
Yeah,
like the cops.
exactly. I said, seriously, what
Yeah.
is HR? But she's got a good job. She was out. All our kids are here.
Okay.
So it's really nice. But she was out in Oregon. And I don't know if you've ever been there or not. Oregon's a beautiful state. Might be, a little different political climate than I like, but I didn't really care because I didn't care what they believed in. I loved riding motorcycles out there.
I bet.
Golf
Sure.
is beautiful. The ocean. I mean, and then she said, we'd went out when I was Indian as sheriff once, and then that spring, and then the following fall. And I was getting, I said, hey, let's move out there. We'll watch the baby, and I'll ride bikes. I'll play golf. This is perfect. Go to the ocean. And she said, I'm homesick. I'm moving back. I thought, I can't. That's all right. I'm glad she's back, but dang, that was nice out there.
So that probably answers my next question. Plan on staying around in the area through retirement?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I've thought about moving full time to our house at the lakes, but if I did, I told my son-in-law he drew the short straw. He stuck with me in the basement, which is I don't know if that's really good. I don't know if I could do that to anybody. My wife's put up with me 40 years. I don't know if I could do that to my son. But
really
yeah,
good.
I kind of think I will. My wife's more in love with that up there than I am. It's colder.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in, but I'm not into all that. They have a wonderful bicycle trail, some good golf courses, and that's fun. But this is home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent my whole life here. I told her, I go up there, I don't know anybody to play. Go, well, you'll meet new friends. I don't want to meet. I don't want to meet. I like my friends here.
right, that's right.
It's not like getting all mad about it. So I don't know who will win that deal. But,
On the way walking in, you made a comment about the Hawkeyes. Some I
Yeah,
through. Any
yeah.
Football fan?
oh, I'm a huge Hawkeye fan.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know any better.
Yeah.
It's been some
Neither the rest of us.
tough times, but who would have guessed we're 8-2?
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
you're good.
I mean,
You're,
I keep saying they can't keep getting away with it.
When they
But
won't with
they
the
do.
new Big Ten. I just
Not,
can't.
not the new.
You'd
Yeah.
think, right? But
Right.
okay,
There needs
finds
to-
a way.
25 years. And listen, I like Larry Clausen. He was a good guy, but I said, everybody has a shelf life. You can just stay too long, and I think Kirk's had a hard time making some adjustments. But there's one thing about him, it's field position.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not the shiniest car on the parking lot, but it's pretty reliable. And
Yeah.
25 years.
So they've been saying that for about probably 10 years now.
Yeah.
He's gonna hang it
I
out
always
there and
say
move on.
I can live with going to a bowl game every year
Yeah.
and developing Iowa kids into good
Yeah.
players.
Yeah. And
if they keep doing that, that's
think
fine.
He's still isn't
I
he
can
one
be
of the
happy.
highest paid college
Oh
coaches?
no, not even close.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Uh-huh.
When he got his big one, that was probably Orange Bowl area.
Right.
That he got a huge one. But he was kind of the name there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's, it's tough. Can you imagine? It's like being in a leadership role. You're always
yeah.
going to take pot shots. I say nothing bad about him because you saw him Saturday. He's emotional because he's committed to the kids, and they took a lot. And his son, that's hard. Hearing the fans. I wasn't a Brian Ferentz. He was not the right guy for the offense coordinator. But to hear the fans, fire Brian, I mean, that's got to sting. I get it, but.
And they do not do a lot of coaching changes ever.
No.
At the
No.
University
I
of
mean,
Iowa,
yeah.
just because it's.
He's done well. Yeah. Has he won a championship? No, but you know what?
I'm fine with
Pretty darn
that.
steady.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's a
highest
tough
paid
haul
state
for
employee.
University of Iowa.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
consider Iowa
right.
blue blood. kind of getting through there into the little sports podcast here lately.
Yeah.
I saw we were talking before everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you go to the games?
Yeah, I went. I was in Iowa City on Saturday. Actually,
Okay.
It was one of the better. I mean, like everyone was positive, everyone was happy, no one was booing.
Right.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
I actually felt like
Helps when you score a touchdown for the first time in 4 weeks.
Right.
It felt like a small corner's been turned. Now, will it stay?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
That was a good defense, though.
Oh yeah.
That record
yeah.
defense. So that's
Unbelievable.
good to see them score against them like that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, let's just hope this, and I'm sure you got Husker fans, but just as long as
Yeah,
you win
if
that.
Patterson's lit.
That's all that I
Oh.
care. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you
can
got to
we
deal
bring
with
him
him.
up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
go
bring
ahead.
him up.
He is the
When are you
mayor.
running for mayor now?
He's the mayor of
Because I'll move to Lawton just to vote for you instead
you know
of him.
what? I'm thinking about doing a write-in campaign.
Please do.
All
There you
right.
go. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do.
Heck yeah.
What a character.
That's one way to. I've heard him called a lot of things. Character is probably
It's probably the nicest.
nicest. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
He, you've never tried to get into a prank war or do anything to piss
man.
Jesse
Oh,
off?
absolutely. I have a guy at WIT that does caricatures.
Okay.
And so I put his face and Kirk Ferentz hugging. Oh, I've got all these. Yeah, yeah. I killed him. He would try to do something, and he's horrible at trying to do. But I had an expert, and I had all these.
This is
and,
so good.
Yeah, he couldn't even. Finally, he gave up because I was just like his family, and there's Kirk with them.
Oh,
yeah,
my God.
This is great.
Yeah.
You got to see that sometime.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
If we could somehow
he
get
quit
any,
doing it because at first he started. He thought
Yeah.
he'd win. And I thought, oh, you're messing with fire. I got contacts. And
So
so yeah.
it's been a rough few years for the Patterson household with Husker football.
They won last year, and you would have thought they won for 40.
Oh, my
You know,
God.
that's a Husker mentality.
4-8 right there. They're better. I think Matt Rule will be I think he's the guy for that program. I think he'll be.
Yeah.
Glad to
It
see
wasn't
him
Scott.
lose
It wasn't
Saturday.
Scott Frost.
I'm glad to see him lose Saturday.
That doesn't suck though, right?
Doesn't matter
Yeah, yeah.
if you're a state fan or an Iowa fan.
Yeah,
Right.
We can all agree we don't like Nebraska.
My
so
wife
that's
will
okay.
say that. Why are you watching Nebraska? Because
Just to
I
watch
want
them
them to
lose.
lose.
Just watch
Yeah.
him lose.
Yep.
Well, obviously, I'm not running for office because Husker fans will be rebelling.
So you go to make trips to Iowa City
I used
a
to
couple
have
times a
season-
year.
Yeah, I had season tickets for a long time, and then I just I'll be honest with you, I just got tired of the fans.
Yeah, sure. I can see that.
It got too much. I took my grandkids, and some guy was drunk and threw up, and I'm like,
That was probably my buddy.
He wasn't there, was he?
I'm like, seriously. Now I get it. Maybe
Yeah.
50 years ago that might have been me, but
Yeah.
I it's and I didn't like if somebody got hurt. Like I think it was 1 year I was there, and quarterback got hurt, and they didn't like him, and they're all cheering. I'm like,
Nah, nope.
No.
sometimes fans just don't have it. And the other thing is, let's go straight up.
Yeah.
Old, I
upstairs.
think I'm gonna
Yeah.
fall, and I gotta go to the bathroom a lot. I can watch it on TV at home, get what I like to drink, and sit and watch.
for sure.
Well,
just
shit,
a lot
anymore
easier.
now with like live TV, just pause it. Like,
No,
don't
absolutely.
even have to run
lines,
during the commercials.
no-
Yeah, no line.
Dealing with people.
And it just and the other part was, and you know this going, man, it's a $700 weekend.
Yep.
At
It's not
least.
cheap.
No,
No.
and I'm cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ride that's money I hop on the motorcycle and go on a trip. I mean, not with today's technology. On TV, it's so much better.
Yeah. If you go and they lose, you're just like miserable.
Oh, yeah.
It's like what did I
Yeah.
do? But if they win, you're like, that's
Yeah.
worth every penny.
I remember it was one game, and I'm headed up 380 Cedar Rapids. I cut over
Yep.
20, and we're just chit chatting. And the next thing I know, like 4 days later, I got a letter from the City of 5 Seasons. I'm like, what the speed camera? Because I was going over the game.
Cedar Rapids.
yeah.
It drops to 55.
Yeah,
quick.
it's
Yeah.
slow too.
I'm like, whoa!
I
But
got one there and one back.
Yeah.
going there once.
Yeah, I
And
learned
that
it. My
was
wife-
more expensive than the tickets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was time here in the city where my wife got a red light, my daughter got speed camera, the other daughter got a speed camera. I called Rex and I said, "Here, I know I got to pay it, but how about if I donate to the police union or something? Wouldn't that be better? I mean,
Yeah, to pay
just
the-
go out somewhere.
instead of going to the
just like
general
a
fund.
501c3, maybe I
Yeah.
get some money back. Or something.
See where those monies are going there.
Yeah.
Go to any memorable Hawkeye games?
Oh yeah. 08, we beat Penn State with the field
Oh
goal.
yeah, yep.
2016, beat
Michigan.
Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
way back, Ohio State and Iowa, last play of the game, and Iowa lost. But then I went the time where we pounded Ohio State.
Yes.
And I was with some friends, and we were all looking at each other, and I go, no, I'm not. I can't. I'm going to run on the field.
Yeah.
There was a thought in my mind, but
yeah.
There's been a lot of good ones. They're just. I'm a huge Hawkeye fan. Wrestling.
Yep.
Iowa wrestling has been good, but now with Iowa basketball and Caitlin Clark, man,
crazy.
She's just amazing.
When we were going to Iowa City last week, me and my buddy were going down. We were having a debate, and I said, I think outside of Niall Kinnick, Caitlin Clark has to be the most notable Hawkeye of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's amazing. Done a lot, and the kids, girls like my daughter. I keep telling her, hey, her last name's Clark, and I said, man, you could name her Caitlin Clark. Like everybody's named after her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, she's fun to watch. I've never amazing. Before would turn on women's basketball.
Absolutely.
Get into it, and they played Virginia Tech last week.
Yeah, like I said, I ref high school basketball, and I like it when it's girls basketball. Now this might sound bad, but they're a little slower than the guys, and I need a little slower. But they have picked up so much better. Girls basketball has really progressed over the last several years.
Did you ever get down to the state tournament and ref?
No, never did. No, nor will I now. But I did it for pure enjoyment. That's why I keep doing it. I'm able to pick where I want to go.
Oh, that's
because I like going to that. I'm not going to some gym where, they hate to have you. I go where it's good basketball and people appreciate you being there, and that's fun. That's kind of a nice place to be. I worked with a lot of great refs that made it to Des Moines, but I wasn't at that level, and it's just something that I always enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, kind of as we're wrapping up here about, you talk about your family, you have 4 kids, 9 grandchildren. Anything you want to say to them, message to them or just anything in general, anything about their support over the years?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially my wife, and my kids, being in the position, sometimes you don't have the greatest attention because you're always thinking about something. And that was the other thing that was mine. Or I could be short, and one thing during that whole period, a lot of times in law enforcement, my blood pressure was always high, really high. And matter of fact, right before I decided I wasn't going to do it, Doc said to me, he said, Dave, we got to talk long term here. You can't keep having these numbers. I'm constantly 95 bottom number, well in the 150s, and that's on medicine. Mm-hmm. And I'm out, and 6 months later I get a physical. He goes, pumps it once,
pressure's
pumps
great.
it again. Yeah, 102 over 62. I said, you got a care in the world.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But my wife. I would say this: any spouse that's married to somebody in any leadership role, man, she had to do a lot. She was basically the heavy lifter of everything in our home. When I was in the task force, those 8 years, our hours were probably 11 in the morning, get home midnight or so, working search warrants and that. So I get out, and I'm like, wow, supper is awesome. So I get up, go sit in my chair. She's putting dishes away, doing things, doing homework. I'm watching TV. And a little bit later, I get it in the back of my head. She said, if you think you're going to sit here and do nothing and go back and work in the task force, wake up call here. Yeah, so I knew my spot.
Yeah,
but I'm sure that the chief's wife, your chief, Chad's wife, there's a strain. Mm-hmm. When Chad goes to that call, or when a deputy or a firefighter, their spouse is worried about you and your safety and your team, and so people don't think about first responders, firefighters, law enforcement, just them. No, it takes on the whole home, and my kids, they had a dad that they all knew he was the sheriff, and so that was interesting. My kid, I'll never forget. I was kind of nothing good happens after 11, So it wasn't popular.
I've
with
heard
one of-
these same things over.
Yeah,
over you're saying since
So one of my daughters was like, she graduated, and I said, "Hey, I sleep good, but your mom keeps elbowing me, and you're home at 11." And she was kind of one of them kids, I said, "Well, yeah." I thought, I'm gonna draw the line. Well, then you're gonna have to move out. She said, "I will." I'm like, "Whoa, that's."
Wait a minute.
Yeah, and she wasn't ready. She had a few bumps and bruises and got through it. She figured it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sometimes when you do that. But my son, I'm sitting watching, old eagle eye watching. They come home, and his buddy, he's got this old car, and his buddy drops him off, and they stand outside, and he hands him this deal. I'm like, "What the heck?" And I see him look around. He puts it under his dash. I'm like, "Oh my God, he's got weed. What the hell?" So I crank open the window. I said, "Bring that in the house." And he's like, thought he heard the death angel. I said, "Hey, I want that in the house." So he goes, he yells back, "You're not going to like it." I said, "I don't care. Bring it in." So all the way I'm thinking, oh my God. So he comes in. He's got a Copenhagen can.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he opens it. I said, "Open it." I'm positive it had to be weed. It's little chew packets. I go, "Chew, chew," and I'm thinking I want to hug him, but I don't want to.
You can't
I
give
said,
him that.
"You go to your room." And I shut the door and I go, "Just chew, just chew." Yeah, baby. So yeah, I always tell him that one. Oh my God! He said, "I thought you were gonna kill me." I said, "I thought about it, but it wasn't what it was." Yeah, but I'm sure it's not easy being son or daughter of somebody that's in law enforcement.
For sure.
You get a lot of 1,000 questions. My daughter, can I got one more story?
Yeah, go for
Absolutely,
it.
yeah.
So my daughter, she's a little rebellious. I'm in the task force. She's like 14 or 15. And I go play golf. And my car's there. And I come back. I don't think nothing of it. It's 10 years later. We're going to tell Dad some of the things we did when we were younger. Like she would sneak out. And really? Yeah. So she said, "But that's not the only one." Well, me and her friend took your unmarked car and drove around Mobile in it because we figured we could hear if any other police were around. I said, "Don't tell me that story."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, seriously, I just aged more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Driving around because she could hear the police radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
At least they didn't pull anyone over. I would,
Yeah. Play with the siren.
let's go turn the lights on.
I'm gonna need all the beer in your car. I'm gonna need cups.
Yeah, we're gonna take all this. I'm 29. We're gonna take that.
We're undercover.
Yeah.
That's everything you got.
Yeah.
My partner.
That was life of raising your kids as being the sheriff or in law enforcement.
No kidding. That's
Interesting.
awesome.
Yeah.
I got one more question. If
Okay.
these guys got anything, any advice to new members of law enforcement?
I think the biggest thing I tell them is you really have empathy in everything you're dealing with people. Personalize it. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you're going to write them a ticket, tell them why. I've been called to work this area because people are complaining. Not that you're just doing something so just work with people, communicate, and a little humility goes a long way.
I bet.
I think the biggest problem most have when they first start is it's that authority. It's what I always say, don't be me, okay? My very first ticket I ever wrote, town of Marcus. None of you guys know this. Before the stop sign, in the code, there's a white line. Mm-hmm. And you have to stop before the white line. This guy's like 82. And I said, "Sir, the reason I'm stopping you, yeah, I don't know. I've lived here my whole life." I said, you didn't stop at the white line." "I know, I stopped at the stop sign." "Well, sir, you have to stop at the white." "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. I was that guy, but I learned not to be that guy.
For
And
sure.
I always tell, don't be that guy, okay?
Yeah.
Don't be that idiot that made those mistakes. And and try to work with people. Oh my God, I still remember I went to court and the judge looked at me like,
You were like,
you
"Dude,
kidding
wrote
me?"
this guy a ticket for that? Come on.
I guarantee a city councilman got a phone call.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's like,
yeah.
you know what? Just worry about turning the water down.
Yeah, turn the water
go get
tower
the
off,
goddamn
lock
water
the
tower
post
turned
off.
off.
Yeah, don't get beyond that.
One stop sign in town.
Yeah.
Like,
That's it.
stop at a white line.
That's really funny. I like that story.
Yeah, so I said, don't be that guy. Just work with the people. I think if you get out and work with them, people will really love you. We got people that do community policing. It isn't a one-person department. It should be every deputy is doing community policing. And I think that's how Sioux City Police have discovered the best way to do it. Get out.
Yeah.
And that helps emboldens your image. So, yeah.
Relationship building, and not just our profession, but just in life in general.
Absolutely.
That's I had a cap. Like I always say, I had a captain that just would pound that into your head.
Yeah.
It's just relationship building.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to say it. It definitely is. That's what we need to do more of, because I guarantee you, it happened to me. I'm down by Sergeant Bluff, and this guy, I stop him, fights on. Guy comes out from the house. He said, "Can I twist his ankle?" I said, "Do whatever you want. I don't care. You can do what you want, but they'll help you."
Yeah.
But if you're an idiot, you're a prick, they might just call 911 and say your deputy needs help.
Yeah.
Instead of diving in. So you get people to help you when you're that kind of person.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we all should be in this business.
Awesome.
Good advice.
You guys got anything?
No, I
Great stuff today.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Learned a lot about you. and learned a
Fantastic.
lot
This
about
was.
Well, I did
Sheriff's.
stop at Jenner's Donuts, and now they're closed.
They're closed on Mondays.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went to the popcorn
Yeah, we
place.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's
and
good stuff.
It's yours. If you don't mind, I had my fingers in there a little. I tried not to lick it.
Oh,
too
you're
bad.
good.
No, we don't care. We don't care.
I will tell you, I was downstairs using your restroom, and you have like this planning for holidays eating. I didn't pass it. You were like eating healthy, eating veggies. I'm like, and are you kidding me? It's wings on Wednesday, a whole bunch. Thursday, I'm starting to graze by 10 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you got to wear sweatpants.
That's right.
Oh yeah, and then you're done
miserable. Yep.
till Friday.
Yep.
Then you
right.
get some more going.
That's
Good
right,
to see you
baby.
retirement.
I couldn't be a firefighter
well.
for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not into that fitness, and two, I'm claustrophobic as all get out. I went DEA. We went to a deal about meth labs, and we had to put on the pack.
Oh, yeah.
And get in this room filled with smoke and a little bell. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
I wanted to wet my pants. I'm scared. I had to hold on to him. I mean, I'm just dragging him. Don't leave me. Yeah. So, yeah, I knew I couldn't be a firefighter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I could
love it.
be if you needed the guy to blow the horn.
No,
I was
yeah,
gonna
there
say,
we
if you
go.
need someone to come drive
One
around.
time. Let me do it again.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that story. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So, well, with that being said, Sheriff, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
A lot of great
Appreciate it.
stories today. Thanks for taking the time. Learned a lot, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. So,
I have nothing but fondness for the Sioux City Fire. You guys have been great. I play in your golf outing because what I love about your golf outing is you use that money to give back to the community. There's others that they hoard it and they don't give it back, and that says a lot about the local 107 or what is
local
it?
stuff.
Local 7.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, and on top of it, they harassed me a little when I was sheriff,
Yeah.
which I deserved.
Yeah.
I think Lenny Flack made a cup like this and had my picture in the middle with a big donut around it.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I deserve it. I deserve it.
If I ever remember any of the golf tournaments, I'm sure I'll have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
some
I'll be
fun.
there. I usually go. Yeah.
Just say if you ever remember.
If I remember many. I usually remember. I usually get about 3 or 4 holes.
There was a few of you that jumped in that scuzzy water. Like,
Oh God.
man alive. But we'll just keep that here.
Awesome. Well, it is November. Next month is December. Maybe we'll do another Christmas episode like
Yep.
last year. We'll have mustache photos.
Yeah, we'll
hopefully.
talk about the mustaches.
That competition's coming up, and we'll see you guys in a bit. Ryan, go ahead and drop the tones.